Good morning, Bioneers. I'm thrilled to be here with this community today. It's a real honor. I'm especially honored that I'm here to introduce a good friend and my partner, Dr. Victor Pineda. I met Victor for the first time a few years ago. One of Victor's many influential roles is that he actually teaches urban planning not far from here at the University of California in Berkeley. And I was about to hire one of his former graduate students. And so I arranged to talk with Victor as a reference for this student. And Victor and we chatted for maybe 5 minutes about the student. We've hired him, he's great, he continues to work for us. But then we went off into a discussion of some other topics, and one in particular that we were very passionate about, and ended up talking for at least another hour about a risk that we were seeing globally with some trends around urbanization and the increasing role of technology in our lives every day, the risks for increasing the digital divide for people with disabilities around the world. So we chatted about that for quite a while, and the concerns that we had in those risks. And that very enthusiastic conversation with Victor was my first introduction to him, and really his charisma just came through. We happened to be Skyping at that point because I was in rural Mexico, and I think Victor was here in San Francisco at that point. But his drive to solve problems really came through in that first initial Skype call that we had. And I remember actually thinking as we finished the call that I knew at some point I would be working with this man, because he was just so energetic and charismatic and so focused on making a difference. So about a year later, we actually launched a global project together called Smart Cities for All. And we've been working together closely for a year and a half or so on that. And I've gotten to know Victor incredibly well. We work together basically every day somewhere on the planet. We're doing work together. And I know Victor likes challenges. He likes adventures, he likes challenges, he likes tackling tough issues. He scales mountain peaks, both figuratively and literally, which is great to see. And he brings this fearlessness to our work. I see the impact of his fearlessness, of his determination on the problems that he's trying to solve around the world. So I mentioned that one of Victor's role is teaching at Berkeley and really shaping the next generation of urban planners and of policymakers to get them to think about disability rights and to think about inclusive design, which he's doing. But in addition to that, he's got a few other important roles that I want to make you aware of. He started his own nonprofit called World Enabled, which focuses on promoting both the rights and, importantly, the dignities of people with disabilities around the world. Here in the US, he was appointed by the president, and I'm very careful to say now, by President Obama. Twice he was appointed to the US Access Board, which is the federal agency that focuses on accessibility and disability issues, disability rights for the US federal government. 15 years ago, when Victor was just 23 years old, he played a very impactful role in the development of an historic human rights treaty for the rights of people with disabilities around the world. This treaty is historic because it was the fastest negotiated and adopted human rights treaty in history. It's the first human rights treaty to raise access to technology to a basic human right. And Victor's contributions to that at 23 years old were instrumental. And I think the proof in the value of this human rights treaty and in his contributions is that this treaty has been adopted by just about every country on the planet at this point in just a decade. Yeah. It's fantastic. So over the past few years, the United Nations has been working to define a roadmap for cities, recognizing that we are a rapidly urbanizing planet. Victor's also played a pivotal role in that work, convening disabled persons groups around the world to make sure that their voice, their perspective, is a part of these international discussions and agreements, because too often they're not. And he continues to lead that organization and have an impact on that UN work globally. So his vision, and more importantly, his actions and his leadership are truly transforming our world today, particularly when it comes to people with disabilities around the world. And really for all of us who value and work to safeguard human rights around the world, we can thank Victor for his contributions. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, now to present his vision for, and I love this, radical inclusion, please join me in welcoming my partner and my good friend, Dr. Victor Pineda.
How are you, Bioneers? How you feeling? Excited? Are we gonna climb some mountains? Are we gonna make some solutions? Are we gonna solve the world's problems? Maybe not, but we can try. We can each do what we can. And I think that all of us can do more when we work together. I believe that there are no problems that are impossible if we have an imagination to look beyond what is apparent and we imagine a new future. You see, that was something that was instilled into me by this incredible woman. My grandmother, Nada. Bobby is the rock that raised me. She was the one that gave me the strength to imagine my place in the world and reimagine what I could do. My mother actually came to this country in search of opportunities because every time she took me to a school in Venezuela, the principals and the teachers said to my mother, "Keep your kid at home. He'll be teased at school. It's better that he doesn't go to school. Plus, we don't know what to do with a kid that can't walk. We can't really educate him. He's not going to be able to get a job. He's not going to be able to have a career. Just keep him at home. It'll be easier for everybody." But my mother realized that those were just people that lacked imagination. Right? And my grandma actually really raised us because my mother was a single mother. We came to the United States when I was 7. I stopped walking around that time because my muscles were weak. My muscles weren't strong enough to hold me up. But you know who was strong enough is my brothers, these guys. They were strong enough to carry me up the tree so I could get a good view and give my grandmother a heart attack. They were strong enough to help me learn to defend myself from bullies in school, where my big brother, Francisco, who's in the back there, eating the apple in junior high, said, "You know, Victor, who's this guy that's teasing you? I want to beat him up." And I said, "It's that guy." He said, "You know what? Maybe it's better that I don't beat him up. Maybe it's better that you figure out a way that you can defend yourself." And it was that idea that I could actually stand up for myself and that I could assert my rights with dignity that allowed me to gain the self-confidence that I needed to tackle the challenges that life would throw before me. The little guy is Patrick. Patrick also was very curious, but he was great because the things that I physically couldn't do, I would get him to do. Like I said, what would happen if you stick your finger inside the electrical socket? So he survived. But anyway, I think family, love, support, being able to think about what's possible beyond other people's expectations was critical. That's what my family did. And that's also what instilled in me the desire to go beyond what even I thought was possible. So I came to the United States. I ended up excelling in school. The United States had the ADA, passed the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, huge civil rights struggle, huge victory for 54 million Americans. And something that supported my education in a way that I did not feel different than Robbie's red freckles or Sally's glasses. I just had a wheelchair as part of diversity. It was part of the class. But it was also part of my own story because I ended up going to UC Berkeley, right? Getting a degree in political economy, business administration, then a master's in regional economic development, and a PhD from UCLA in urban planning. Now I teach at some of the world's most prestigious universities. Not bad for a kid that wasn't going to get an education, right? But it's really how we apply the skills that we have and what we do in search for social justice, what we do in search for making a contribution. You see, this image represents a spirit of adventure, something that I've carried with me my entire life. Go to places where people need to rediscover what's possible, share my vision and imagination of what we can do when we eliminate the barriers that limit our potential, when we eliminate the limiting beliefs, when we reimagine what's possible. You see, inclusion really is not about just who's in or who's out. Inclusion is about understanding the diversity of all of our lifestyles and all of our preferences. It's not about whether you can see or you can't see. It's about a spectrum of abilities. It's not about whether you can walk or can't walk, but how you prefer to move around. You see, there are 1 billion people in the world that live with a disability. That's 1 in 7. And that just rises dramatically with aging. After 60 years old, the percentage of people with disabilities is about 45%. And after 80, it's about 75% of people over 80 experience some disability, some challenge, some encounter some way that they want the world to be a little bit more inclusive, a little more accessible. That's why I put all these images here, these icons, because it's also situational. It's how you would experience the world around you. It's your environment. We can either make environments that are inclusive, or we can make environments that keep people excluded, people out. Now, you guys probably recognize this place. This is the Playa at Burning Man. You see, Burning Man taught me that inclusion is a state of mind as well. You can be in the most inhospitable environment, but if people welcome you with open arms, curiosity, ask about what your preferences are, how you want to be treated, meet you on your terms, almost anything can happen, including having a radical good time. So what do we do? What do we do to tackle the issue of inclusion? How do we create a world that you can live with fewer barriers? How do we understand disability not as a medical perspective, as this person has this medical condition, but rather as an experience of human life, a diversity that any of us can fall into at any time? And how do we create those bridges that allow us to realize our potential? So I think that we can each do something. We can each think about what it means to be human. And we can each understand that being human is not about being just part of the same species. Google says it's also about weakness. It's about understanding that we're not all perfect, right? And it's understanding that we each have vulnerabilities. And it's those vulnerabilities that actually can unlock strengths within each one of us. It's those places where we're uncomfortable, we can reimagine sort of what's possible. I took a trip to India where I went to the Ganges River because I was experiencing some challenges in my life. My marriage was in trouble. I was in a career moment where I wasn't very satisfied. And I decided to reimagine what my life could be like. They dipped me in the Ganges River. I had a psychedelic experience. And I realized that there was so much more that I could do if I actually owned my life and took my life in full throttle. This is a documentary film that I'm producing, 12 Bends, which is going to document that story. I encourage you guys to check it out, 12 Bends. And really thinking about cities and companies as allies in regenerative, responsive, and radically altering these systems. It's about how we can capture a market of $8 trillion. That's the amount of money, disposable income of people with disabilities and their families. It's about creating products and services that lift you up and carry you further. It's about understanding that your core identity is about being responsive to the population, all of the population. It's understanding that your products should be easy to use. The things that we build need to be accessible for everyone so that there's less frustrations. And no matter what your lifestyle is, you can engage with that product or service. I'm really honored that my colleague James and I are working on this initiative called Smart Cities for All, because we're seeing a huge convergence of technology and urban development. And it's really that convergence that allows us to think about what's possible and have new imaginations about the world that we're creating. You see, we don't want to just be sustainable. We're going to be responsive to the needs of the world and all of our people. We don't want to be regenerative, but we want to be not just regenerative, but also inclusive. Meaning, let's get a world where love and imagination can create new opportunities and good times and a better future for us all. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Every year, Bioneers gives a special award out to people who are exemplars in radical inclusion, in presenting solutions for some of the most pressing and urgent paradigm-shifting issues of the day. You saw on the one of the first slides that Victor shared his Nana. Unfortunately, his Nana is ailing and he has to leave tomorrow, or actually leave tonight. Typically, we would give this award out tomorrow, but we wanted to share this recognition with all of you. So to Victor and to James, we want to thank the both of you for this critical, vital, solution-based work that you're doing. The gift that we're awarding you is a blanket made by a native-owned firm in Seattle, an 8th generation indigenous, and thank you, James and Victor, so much for the work you're doing. We're so grateful for you. Thank you, Victor.
Thank you.